Okay, I love this question a lot, right? Because we've all been there as fans of a show that we dearly love. We're given the chance to have a friend watch an episode for the first time, and our deepest desire is just for our friend to also love the show with us. We want them to understand why we love it. We want them to get it. But that begs the question, what is it? And if we figure that out, it'll lead to the answer of our original question. What's the best episode of The Office to show a new viewer? First, though, we have to understand what makes The Office The Office. When we look at what makes up the core of The Office and its heartbeat, we get several specific things. Pillars, if you will, that are the foundation of The Office, and they're what makes the show so excellent. First, I want to say that the physical office space of Dunder Mifflin Scranton is important to the show. The Office is unique compared to Parks and Rec or Friends in that it is largely based in one small room. The physical space of the bullpen, conference room, and Michael's office are vital to the heart of the show because it's where the majority of the show takes place. Another thing that is so important to the show is Michael. Obviously, he is the main character of the show, and so it's important for the new viewer to understand him. They have to see how funny he is, they have to see how much of an idiot he is, and they have to see just how much he cares about his employees. Dwight also has to rank up there as one of the most important people. He's the only character who has a line in every episode. His wild behavior and his relationship with Michael are some of the absolute best parts of the show. Although, because he alone is not a main character, an episode without Dwight could still be the best option. This one, however, can't be missed. One of the strengths of The Office is its ensemble. Very rarely do we see a show that juggles the main cast as large as 18 people so effectively. The group dynamic of The Office is so important to the success of the show, and it's one of the reasons I feel like it's so special. And lastly, but arguably most importantly, we have Jim and Pam's relationship. This is by far the most important relationship in The Office, and it carries so much of the emotional weight that the show has. Pam is the heart of the show, and her connection to Jim gives us these heart moments that make us really, really love the show. There are also a few other rules that we should try to follow when picking the best episode. It can't be the climax of something we've been waiting seasons and seasons for, because that moment only holds weight because of our waiting. It has to be an episode that the weight of it is understood only by watching that episode. In my opinion, it also has to be one of the better written episodes that the show has. It can't just have all the pillars, it also must be a high quality episode. We should avoid spoilers if we can, but with an older show like The Office, we get to be a little more lenient because by now, most people know generally how the show goes. Okay, so now with our parameters in place, let's scour the archives to find the best episode. To start, I want to look at Dinner Party. This episode is widely considered to be The Office's best episode, so it may be the best one to show a new viewer. In this 21 minutes of absolutely brilliant TV, the camera crew follows Jim, Pam, Andy, and Angela into Michael and Jan's condo for an evening dinner. This episode is no doubt top-tier Office, but is it the best to show a new viewer? I'm going to argue no. Yes, Michael is excellent in this episode, but most of the comedy comes from earned jokes that have come from 4 seasons of feelings and oppression from the Michael and Jan relationship arc. Also, while Jim and Pam are in this episode, they carry none of its emotional weight, and we don't get to see a good look at their relationship. This episode is pretty small with only about a third of the ensemble present. Dwight is basically a side character, and lastly, it doesn't even take place at Dunder Mifflin Scranton. Incredible episode? Yes, but it's not the one we're looking for. Season 1, Episode 2, Diversity Day is also highly regarded as one of the best episodes of The Office. It centers on the Scranton branch going through a diversity training program because of Michael's recent incompetence. And on paper, this episode appears to have everything that the show is made of. Michael is a main character and is absolutely incredible in this episode. Jim and Pam share one of the fan-favorite moments in their whole storyline. Dwight has some excellent lines and scenes, and the episode takes place completely at Dunder Mifflin Scranton, and it is even an ensemble-based episode. So why is this one not the pick? It's because, while all the ingredients are present, they just aren't right yet. The writers have yet to write Michael as a redeemable character, so I don't think he's enjoyable to watch yet. The ensemble is present, but their lines and interactions look like skeletons compared to the fully fleshed out characters we get in future seasons. And besides, their interactions with each other are minimal in this episode. And fan favorites like Andy, Creed, and Aaron aren't here yet. And let's be honest, Dwight does not get to serve his character justice in this episode. But we're on the right track. Fan favorites like Goodbye Michael get scratched off the list because it's an emotional story arc resolution. The same could be argued for Casino Night. Hilarious episodes like Money and Beach Games are scratched off for not taking place at Dunder Mifflin. And as we continue to scratch off episodes that won't work, it feels like there may not be a good option. But don't worry, there's one episode. There's one episode that I truly believe is the best episode to show a new viewer. And that is Season 5, Episode 14, Stress Relief. In this all-time classic, the camera crew follows the office after Stanley suffers a heart attack from Dwight's chaotic fire drill. The ensemble watches Michael struggle with the guilt of that event and eventually invite everyone to a roast of him. This episode is without a doubt Office gold, but let's see how it holds up to the Office pillars. First off, I want to talk about Michael. This episode is the absolute peak of Michael Scott. It's easily one of his funniest episodes because he's a total idiot in it, and because of the amount of screen time, he has the ability to be his absolute best self. And this episode has what Diversity Day lacked, which is redemption. Michael ends the episode telling the office how much he loves it, and from season 2 all the way to his season 7 exit, this is a core part of his character. I don't think there's an episode in The Office that covers all the bases of Michael better than this one. His leadership in the office, his people-pleasing tendencies, his love for his employees, his humor, his stupidity, and his heart are perfectly portrayed. Next, this episode nails the Office writer's ability to include the ensemble in a meaningful and funny way. The cold open features brilliant moments by each character. The CPR training is peak group comedy. We get moments with the entire office in on the scene, and it is topped by an entire roast featuring a literal spotlight on each character. Very rarely do we get such a prominent feature of all 18 cast members as this episode provides. One of the best spotlights in this episode too is Dwight. We get to see him at full craziness. He starts a fire in the office. He cuts off a CPR dummy's face. He spends the rest of the episode scheming to get the office to sign his apology form. And this scene with Michael is an absolutely perfect example of their comedy as a duo. This episode is arguably one of the strongest Dwight as an antagonist episodes in the show's entire run. Also, this episode takes place entirely at Dunder Mifflin, Scranton. What's more is we get a full tour of the entire place. Warehouse, break room, parking lot, we get it all. This episode truly feels like home in a way that Money and Dinner Party just aren't able to replicate. And Jim and Pam, the writers nail their relationship here. One of the main plot points of this episode is Jim and Pam navigating Pam's parents' divorce. We see Jim and Pam's relationship stretched and then resolved in easily one of my very favorite moments from all 9 seasons of their relationship arc. This episode absolutely nails the heart that Jim and Pam's relationship bring to the show. And lastly, even with the pillars covered, the writers continue to make the case stronger. We get arguably the best cold open in the show's entire run. Also, a little look into the corporate structure that gives the show its reality. We get a wonderful That's What She Said, a guest star, and some fan favorite talking heads. Every way you look at it, you can't help but love it. And if I'm trying to get a new fan to fall in love with The Office, I'm putting all my money on Stress Relief.